And following the continued detention of the student of the Federal University, Dutse, Mr. Aminu Muhammed, over his tweet against the wife of the president, Mrs. Aisha Buhari, the National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS, is planning a nationwide protest. The leadership of the association in a statement says the protest is to demand the release of their colleague after failed attempts at having the issue resolved. Mr. Muhammad, a final-year student in the Department of Environmental Management and Toxicology at the Federal University, Dutse, Jigawa State, was alleged to have made the post criticizing Mrs. Buhari. Justice Halilu Yusuf of the Federal Capital Territory High Court yesterday remanded Aminu Muhammad at the Suleja Correctional Center in Niger State over the issue. Meanwhile, legal practitioner Mr. Monday Ubani has been explaining the legal implications of the arrest and detention. Mr. Ubani was a guest on our breakfast program, Sunrise Daily.
The report now had it that yesterday he was secretly arraigned. And now we don't know what transpired. We don't know whether he has now been called to plead guilty because he's now in a correctional center in Suleja. We don't know whether he was actually granted bail and he was unable to perform the conditions of the bail. There are two possible things that must have happened why he has been taken now to correctional center. Either he has been granted bail, but since he doesn't have any relation to fulfill the conditions of the bail, that's why they have kept him in correctional center. Or he may have been cajoled to plead guilty, in which case they would have engaged in summary trial and then sentenced him. So that fact will be unveiled today because we have commissioned somebody to find out the true situation from the correctional center.
One wonders, so in terms of what his offense is, just trying, because we haven't seen any charge that's been leveled before him, so we're trying to understand what part of the law could he have breached now. You mentioned in passing possibility of what, cyber stalking or cyberbullying. Could those stand in the face of the law?
That is the point. You know, we have the Cybercrime Act. I think that law was enacted some time ago, and it has provision for issue of cyber stalking when a public office or any individual can be cyber stalked. And it's an offense under that particular act. But it's an offense also that you have a right of a defense. You have a right to defend whether you are cyber stalking or cyber bullying that individual. You know, that is a crime that is prescribed under the act. So it does exist. Now, whether what the young man has posted qualifies as cyber stalking or cyber bullying is a matter of evidence. It's a matter of the prosecution now laying the evidence of what has happened in this instance, and then allowing the individual himself to have a defense, especially access to a lawyer for legal representation is very key. It's a constitutional requirement. I don't know what all that happened. The lawyer himself you mentioned now, was he in court when this particular charge was read? What happened? Did he plead guilty, or was it that he was granted bail and he did not fulfill the condition of the now leading to him being in a correctional center? So as these are issues, you know, so cyberbullying and cyber stalking is actually an offense under the Cyber Crime Act, you know, a law that was enacted under the last administration. Yes, it's a criminal offense.
Meanwhile, wife of the president, Mrs. Aisha Buhari, is billed to testify against Aminu Adamu for allegedly defaming her. In a list of witnesses attached to the proof of evidence filed by the police on Wednesday night, Mrs. Buhari, the nominal complainant, is one of the 5 witnesses assembled by the prosecution to establish the case against Mr. Adamu. The police says the alleged offense borders on defamation and cyber stalking in contravention of Section 391 of the Penal Code.